My sister shoved me into the refrigerator and I heard something crack. The pain was sharp, immediate, spreading through my chest like shattered glass. But that wasn't the worst part. The worst part came seconds later when I clutched my ribs and gasped for help, and my mother didn't even look up from the couch. She just sighed, brushed popcorn crumbs off her lap, and said, "Don't be dramatic. She didn't mean it, she just lost her temper." In that moment, something inside me broke even deeper than the bone. It had started as another stupid argument in the kitchen, the kind we'd had 1,000 times before. I had gone in just to get a glass of water. That's all. Amanda was already there, red-faced, pacing, muttering about how someone had touched her things. Her voice was shrill, just short of screaming. I didn't even make eye contact. I knew better, but she kept pushing, accusing. "Don't lie to me," she yelled, stepping closer. "You always do this." "I didn't touch anything, Amanda. I swear." I said it calmly, even when my hands started to tremble. But she didn't want calm. She wanted a fight. Suddenly, she shoved a chair out of the way and lunged at me. Before I could move, her hands were on my shoulders and she slammed me into the fridge door. Her elbow jabbed into my ribs with a force that made my whole body buckle. I dropped the glass I was holding. It shattered at my feet. I couldn't breathe. It felt like fire was crawling up my side. I tried to straighten up, but my chest screamed in protest. My voice cracked as I yelled, "Mom, she hurt me. Something's wrong. I can't." I thought maybe this time, finally, my mother would come running. That maybe seeing me like this, gasping in pain, would jolt her out of denial. But from the living room came that same tired voice. "Oh, honey, not again. Not again." Like this was a pattern I had invented. Like I was making it up for attention. "I think my rib is broken," I said, tears blurring my vision. "You're probably just bruised," she replied, still not looking at me. "Take a Tylenol. Amanda's got a job interview tomorrow. Don't ruin it for her." Amanda just stood there, smug, victorious, sipping juice I bought with the last of my money. No apology, no remorse. And in that moment, I realized something crystal clear. I could scream, I could beg, I could bleed, but in this house, I would never be the victim. I'd always be the problem, the dramatic one, the inconvenience. That's when I knew I was done protecting them. My name is Rachel. I'm 23, a college student working part-time to cover tuition and bills. I still live at home with my parents and my older sister Amanda, who's 25, unemployed, and in my family's eyes, practically a saint. She's always been the golden child. Beautiful, talented, though I've never seen the talent, and endlessly excused no matter what she does. Meanwhile, I've always been the quiet one, sensitive, overreactive, the one who got told to stop making everything about herself. I was labeled the troublemaker, even when I was the one cleaning up the messes Amanda left behind. Our home is a cramped apartment in the suburbs, and every room feels like it belongs to someone else. One saw in someone else. Mom controls everything. What we eat, when we speak, who we're allowed to be. Dad just fades into the background, silent and passive. Over the years, I've learned to keep my head down. Even when Amanda stole money from my purse, blamed me for things I didn't do, or twisted stories to make me look bad. Still, I kept the peace. I thought maybe, if I stayed small enough, quiet enough, things would change. They didn't. After the attack, I moved like a ghost through the halls of my own home. Each breath I took was a stabbing reminder of what Amanda had done to me, a sharp sigh, biting pain in my ribs that refused to let me forget. I could barely lift my arms without wincing. Turning over in bed at night was unbearable. But somehow, the physical pain was easier to manage than the silence that followed. No one asked if I was okay. Not even once. Not from my mother, who barely looked up from her reality shows, and certainly not from Amanda, who passed me in the kitchen 2 mornings later with a smirk and said, "You always bruise like a peach." Her voice held no remorse, only mockery. I wanted to scream, to throw something, to break the silence with the same violence that had been done to me, but I didn't. I swallowed it all, the pain, the rage, the betrayal. I sat at dinner like nothing had happened, even as each movement sent a jolt through my chest. I didn't say a word when my mom commented on how pale I looked or how I wasn't pulling my weight with chores. I wasn't even surprised anymore. It was just another day in this house where I was either invisible or a nuisance. I had no health insurance. I had no savings. Every paycheck I earned from my part-time job had gone to helping the family, a euphemism for my mother draining my account whenever the rent was due, or Amanda needed a new set of fake lashes. I used to believe that helping meant love, that sacrifice was what daughters did. But now I saw it for what it was: theft, manipulation, abuse. Still, I said nothing, but I began to watch more closely. Silence, I realized, could be power when used right. It could be a mask, a shield. And behind that silence, I began building something stronger than a scream. I started collecting proof. It began with the bruises. I locked the bathroom door one night, lifted my shirt, and took pictures of the deep, angry marks across my side, purples and reds blooming like ink and water. I recorded myself trying to breathe, the gasp, the wince, the trembling in my voice. Then I played back the audio from the night it happened. Mom saying, "Don't call the cops, it'll ruin Amanda's job hunt." That part was gold. I emailed everything to myself, created backup folders, stored them in cloud drives under nondescript names. If I disappeared tomorrow, someone would know the truth. But I didn't stop there. Amanda had been bragging for weeks about her upcoming interview at a prestigious publishing firm downtown. She left her laptop open one night, careless as ever, and I saw her resume on the screen. I knew immediately that it was fake. One of her references was a professor she had publicly cursed out on Twitter 2 years ago after failing a class she barely attended. I took a photo of the screen. Then came the fake internship letter. A friend of mine had interned at the company Amanda claimed to work with. He told me they had no record of her. I asked him to send me an official statement confirming it. He did. Next, I dug through my old bank transfers. Every time my mom had asked to borrow money, I had documented it out of habit. Now, those messages became evidence. Long threads of manipulation and guilt-tripping, like, "You're the only one in this house who works. Don't be selfish," or "Amanda needs this more than you do." And finally, I remembered something my grandfather had told me when I was 18, back when he was still alive and still saw me. He said, "If anything ever happens, the house is in your name. I don't trust your mother to keep it safe." I had thought he was just being dramatic, but I dug up the legal paperwork he'd left me in a dusty folder at the back of my closet. He wasn't lying. The apartment lease, buried beneath piles of old insurance forms and tax documents, had been quietly transferred to my name years ago. My mother had never bothered to check, probably assuming she'd be in control forever. I had everything: the proof of Amanda's assault, the proof of my mother's financial abuse, the falsified resume and internship, the rightful ownership of the house. I packaged it all neatly, like a gift wrapped in quiet vengeance. I sent the file to Amanda's potential employer with a short, polite note. "I believe it's important for you to be fully informed about the character of a candidate before making any hiring decisions. Attached is verifiable documentation. Thank you for your time." Then I sent the same evidence to her former university's ethics board. And finally, I contacted a nonprofit that specialized in helping victims of domestic and financial abuse. I explained everything: my fractured rib, the years of silent manipulation, the stolen money, the gaslighting. They listened, they believed me, and they offered to help me press charges. I didn't move out immediately. I waited. I watched. I smiled politely when Amanda talked about how her life was finally turning around. I nodded when Mom scolded me for being cold and distant. I pretended to be the same quiet Rachel they'd always known. But underneath, I was something else entirely now. I wasn't just surviving anymore. I was preparing. The day Amanda was supposed to have her big interview, she came home hours earlier than expected. I was in the kitchen, quietly making tea, when the front door slammed so hard it rattled the walls. She stormed in, face pale, lips trembling, not with sadness, but with rage. "Who sent it?" she shouted. Her eyes were wild. "Who sent that file to them? They knew everything." I didn't flinch. I didn't fake innocence. I simply looked up at her and said calmly, "Strange, isn't it? How the truth always finds a way." She screamed, an animal sound of fury and disbelief. She knew. In that moment, she knew it was me, and she knew I wasn't scared anymore. Mom rushed in, saw Amanda in tears, and turned on me like a switch had been flipped. "You've ruined her life," she shrieked. "How could you do this to your own sister?" I met her eyes and replied, voice steady, "No, she did that all on her own. I just stopped letting her destroy mine." Amanda was shaking. "You think you've won?" she spat. "You think this makes you better than me?" "No," I said. "I think this makes me free." That's when I pulled out the folder I had prepared, the one with my name on the deed to the house. I laid the papers on the kitchen counter along with the formal 30-day eviction notice. There was no drama in my voice, no yelling, just cold, measured truth. "This house is mine," I said. "Legally. Grandpa left it to me. You have 30 days to move out." The silence that followed was almost satisfying. Mom staggered back like she'd been slapped. "You're lying." I handed her the document. "You're welcome to call a lawyer." Amanda's mouth hung open. Her fury collapsed into disbelief. Dad stood in the doorway, saying nothing, eyes locked on the floor like the shame was finally too heavy to carry. They tried everything over the next few weeks. Pleading, threatening, guilt-tripping. Amanda cried. Mom accused me of betrayal. Dad asked me quietly if I could reconsider. But I didn't budge. I didn't scream. I didn't explain myself over and over like I used to. I'd done enough of that. I just waited. 30 days passed faster than I expected. On the final morning, I watched from the living room window as they loaded the last of their things into a borrowed van. Amanda refused to look at me. Mom screamed something I couldn't hear. And Dad? He didn't say goodbye. He just climbed into the passenger seat, still staring at his shoes like they held all the answers he'd never given me. I didn't cry. I didn't even feel angry anymore. What I felt was lighter. Emptier in a good way. Amanda was blacklisted permanently from the company she'd tried to interview with. The HR department had flagged her application, and I later heard from a friend that the story had spread among other firms in the city. Her university opened a formal investigation into her fraudulent internship and forged references. I didn't need to follow up. I let the truth do its work. As for my mother, the legal aid organization helped me file a case for financial abuse. I gave them every receipt, every text, every bank transfer she had made under the guise of borrowing. They told me it was more than enough to pursue restitution, and for the first time, I believed that justice didn't always have to look like revenge. Sometimes it was just clarity. I stayed in the house. At first, the silence was unfamiliar, almost eerie, but then it turned into something beautiful. I tore down Amanda's old posters. I painted the walls. I replaced the curtains, the lights, the heavy furniture that had carried too many ghosts. I turned her old room, the one where she used to laugh about how I'd never make a living off silly drawings, into an art studio. And I drew, every day, every night, until the pain in my chest turned into color and shape and release. A few months later, I got an email I never thought I'd open. The full-ride scholarship I had deferred after the attack. They still wanted me. They remembered. I packed my backpack, locked the front door, and went, not with fear, but with freedom. I didn't invite my family to graduation. Instead, I walked across the stage in a simple black dress, my grandmother's necklace resting just above my heart, the one she left me in her will, the one Amanda once tried to claim as hers. As I accepted my degree, I smiled softly and whispered to no one in particular, "This is for every time I was told to stay quiet." And this time, the voice was mine. I wasn't just writing the ending, I was writing the beginning.